Happy Friday. What's cracking? What's popping? What's shaking? Everybody. It is episode 29 of the Comic Cinematic Universe. I'm sorry, I'm low key just kind of putting up our promo real quick on IG. But Grace, what's good? What's cracking with Grace?
I am good. I was in the car for like 3 hours. As I mentioned last time, guys, I am in Palm Springs. There's like a little Coachella after party that I'm going to be going to today. So I literally
A
just settled.
Coachella after party. I'm just so fancy. I'm
I
at
just settled
Coachella.
the little right before we went live.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome. But I think we talked about it off stream. I don't think we told the people
Oh,
that you
dude.
were so cool to go to Coachella this year. So if y'all can hear it in the tone of my voice, everybody, I'm a little salty. You know what I'm saying? A little jelly, but I'm happy for Grace. She can tell me I can live through Coachella through her, basically.
Yes, you
So.
can. And I'll be sure you guys the
Yeah.
IG, all of the things. All the things.
All right. So, boom, there it is. Now it's officially posted on our Instagram. So, everybody, welcome to episode 29. We're going to be recapping episodes 2 and 3 of Moon Knight. And as you can see, I got a little addition to my pad here. Got a nice little wall light. Seems pretty cool that I'm going to pretty much keep in the background. And from the company that I saw, because I found them on Instagram randomly, I saw they had quite a few different ones that you may just one day just see this whole wall just
Filled up.
covered in neon lights. But that's where I am right now. But as far as where we are shifting gears. We only have one show to talk about, one topic to talk about, and that is the Moon Knight. And the last time we talked about it, we talked about episodes 1, and 1 was awesome. And now we're here in episode 2. And from what I can recall, because the last time I watched it was last week, episode 2 pretty much picks up with him talking in the mirror, if I can recall correctly, just trying to talk to Mark at his flat. I don't want to say apartment, that's American, you know what I'm saying? We're gonna call it a flat, over in the UK. But kind of, if you can, give me a reminder of like the following events. Kind of refresh my memory.
So there are little clues that he's kind of picking up, right? I think in the first episode is when we see him find like the wallet, the cell phone. We speak to who we will find out in this episode was Layla, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of follows those like breadcrumbs, and he leads into the what is it called? We talked about it last time. The storage, like the storage
Oh,
unit.
right.
And then in the storage unit, this is where Steven finds a whole lot of things kind of indicating what Mark is, which we already know he's a mercenary, right? And Steven's just completely horrified by Mark and like the things he's must have done. And then he's like even more horrified by all the things he finds. I think he finds like a whole bunch of like weapons, right? Something like.
I'm sorry, we kind of skipped over it. He is dealing with the shock of what actually happened at the museum as well.
Oh,
Like
absolutely.
before we even got to the storage, I totally forgot that he went back to the museum just to see the security footage, and Mark looking back at the camera, just like, yeah, like this is real.
You know what? That is so right. I like he's so excited because he's like got the footage. We can like pull up the footage, and all you see in the footage is him just running away from like,
Right.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because honestly, I forgot about that component, and it's similar, in later in this episode, when he's fighting with people like part of like Harold's like clan. I'm just gonna
Mm-hmm.
call it
Mm-hmm.
like to the spectators, they don't really see what he's fighting, and so I'm wondering
Right.
what. I don't think they really don't have like diving into that just yet, but yeah, that's right. I completely forgot about that scene, and then he gets fired, right?
Right. Well, yeah, because just in their eyes, they think that that he trashed the bathroom, and they did a little petty move of just like, oh, we still need your name tag. Like I was like, okay, you could have just let it be, but so yeah, from there we get to the storage.
Before we get to the storage, real quick, this
Okay.
is real. But I was rewatching episode one. It just bugged me when I realized the bathroom that he goes in is literally just like an aisle of sinks. There's no bathroom because behind him it's just a mirror. That's
I
it.
didn't
Like
realize.
I looked very thoroughly at this like room because I was like, wait a minute, like it's just a room with mirrors.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. So I just wanted to point that out. Like that's a big flaw there.
Is
More
that? Who knows? That could be a UK urinal. You don't know. You have no idea.
for our viewers overseas, tell us, is this what your bathrooms look
Right,
like?
please let us know. I know things are different. I feel like I've heard like the water flushes in an opposite direction over there. So who knows? We're gonna, yes, let us know, please. If in the UK the toilets look like what we saw in Moon Knight, because as you can see, it caused
As
Grace
like
a bunch of confusion.
thank you. That's all I wanted. Thank you.
But yeah, back to the storage, okay? Because we hadn't seen Mark the whole entire time, and then it wasn't until Steven, quote unquote, picked up the snitch. I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
call it a snitch just based off of Grace. But based off of that, that's when Mark comes. He's like, "Yo," I think he was just kind of warning him just to leave it alone, just because, in my eyes, I think Mark is just more so about keeping Steven safe. But at the same time, of course, Steven is gonna be curious to know what his body's doing, because uh, of course he put it there. He had the key, and the person at the front desk recognized him. He's like, "Oh, you're in that storage unit. Yeah, I know you. So of course it was gonna pique his curiosity, but now we're getting, I feel like more so the conflict between Steven and Mark, because we hadn't got that before. It was more so about Mark helping Steven in episode one, but now it's just like they're almost kind of clashing.
Yes. And Steven is like trying to do the right thing, but also I think he just sees himself as a danger to others, you know. So
Mm-hmm.
he's trying to keep like the world safe from Mark, who he thinks is kind of like a bad guy, you know, being a mercenary, seeing all the weapons, having an idea of who he is and what he does.
Yeah.
You know, because his intention is to basically like turn himself in, show like the passports or the weapons, and basically, you know, get put away so that he doesn't, you know, I think one have to deal with like managing the two different personalities, but in addition also to keep, I think, other people safe from Mark, who he doesn't see as like a good guy in this case, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and this is also the scene that we kind of talked about last episode in our Morbius breakdown, which is like the flashing of lights and this like sensation of suspense that Marvel's really kind of diving into, and I
Mm-hmm.
think very well orchestrated, right?
Yeah.
I think this is where the lights are flickering, and I believe it's Khonshu who appears, right? Like,
Correct.
even there you go.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's taking the bag, and I think he was trying to like, you know, the things moving around him are just bigger than what Steven can understand. And that's something we're gonna definitely dive into as we continue in the episode for sure.
And before we go further, I'd like to do a callback real quick, just because as far as personalities are concerned, I think Bobby showed up in episode 3. I think that was the name that we gave this extra personality in the last episode. Was that his name, Bobby?
We said no. Hold on. I gotta get it right because we like me, Scotty.
Scotty. I think Scotty appeared in episode 3, and we're going to get to that, but I just wanted to make kind of like a mental note. Like when I saw it, I was just like, oh, this is the ladies' man right here,
Yeah.
So we'll get to that. Back to episode 2, and yeah, he's running out of the storage locker, and then as he's running out, he just happens to bump into his wife. Like right there. She's like, "Oh, hey," out of nowhere. Um but now we're kind of getting a feel of, like, I don't know if she mentioned how long Mark's been gone, I guess out of her life or whatnot.
We did hear it in the first episode where Stephen finally answers the phone, and because there's like hundreds and hundreds of like messages or
Mhm.
calls from her and
Mhm.
an individual who I think is someone we're gonna meet in the next few episodes.
Okay.
But yeah, she says something like, "Oh, like we haven't talked in months, and that's all you say,
Mm-hmm.
when Steven answers the phone. So I know there's a specific like length of time. I want to say it was something around like 8 months, something like that. But pretty significant amount of time to not hear from your, still legal husband, right? Because they're in the process of separation, is what it
Right.
seems like. But this is a really cool component because in this episode we really get an idea of Mark's life, because we got a pretty good understanding of Steven's day to day, seeing him go through his morning routine, where he goes to work, how he spends his evenings.
Mm-hmm.
This is the episode I think that really frameworks the world of Mark, right? Who was very much in like the background all of episode one.
Yeah, because we needed that. Of course, this wasn't going to necessarily be the Steven show. This was, I guess, the proper time to give us a little bit more Mark, and Mark was primarily the personality in this whole entire episode, and now you can kind of see his conflict that he has with Conchu, because now he's not only battling Steven, but I want to low key say that he's battling Conchu just because, just from what I read in the encyclopedia, Mark got his powers because of a near death experience that Conchu saved him from.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just, being that they haven't really given us the full backstory in the MCU, I'm just going to assume that's still the story. And with that, Conchu is basically telling him that he has like a debt to pay.
Yes.
And if he doesn't pay that debt, then he'll just transfer the powers to the wife. And that's the last thing uh, Mark wants, because with that, I can just say that Conchu, God he may be, he's more so, he could be seen as a tormentor too. And even if Steven wasn't in the picture, Conchu's still going to be over Mark's left shoulder, asking him to take care of these tasks. And I think that's where, like, we learn in this episode that I forgot Ethan Hawke's character's name, but Ethan Hawke knows and can relate because he said he used to be the avatar for Khonshu. So he knows what Khonshu is, and he knows the things that Khonshu asked for. So now I think it starts to question, how good is Khonshu? Or, even though I know he's doing it for the greater good, but at the same time, um, how good is he to Mark? If that makes sense.
No, absolutely. And I think, the first episode when we got kind of the interaction between Conchu and Mark, I think we were kind of in the assumption that it was somewhat like a Venom and Eddie Brock type situation, right? It's not like they always see eye to eye, but, they have some form of like mutual understanding and some form of harmony. And I think this episode is really where they shine the light on the conflicts. And it's more so almost like I don't want to call it blackmail, but, if you don't complete this task, I don't separate, and also not like, what I mean, dive into the wife. And so he really
Mm-hmm.
has no choice but to follow through and do what he asks.
Right.
And it's interesting because it's Arthur Harrow, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
Ethan Hawke character. I think this episode is where you really kind of it's what Marvel's been doing really well, is just giving us a lot of gray with their characters, specifically like the villains,
Mm-hmm.
where it's easy to kind of see like the viewpoint of the villain. And I think this is definitely a really great example of that, because he brings out a good point, like um what's the god that he serves?
I forgot.
I'm
I
gonna
forgot off
get
the
it,
top of my head. Yeah.
because there's Khonshu, and then there is.
I'm gonna
We're,
actually see if
I need to make sure I have it.
his last name is Harrow. You said.
Yes, but I'm thinking of the god that he serves. I'm blanking on that one for some reason. Let's see. We're gonna bring it up again, which is
Yeah.
why I want
Yeah. Definitely.
to know. Anyways, well, as I'll let you kind of look for it, but he does make a good point that his God, takes care of people before bad things even happen. So essentially, speaking of like a utopia, right, where people just live in harmony, there's no fear, like neighbor protects neighbor, all of that, which is kind of the example we see in his little community that he has built, and he criticizes Khonshu in that he brings justice after the offense has already been made way too late, you know?
Well, let me ask you this. Just because of Arthur Harrow's mission, right? What makes him and his mission different from the mission of Thanos? Because ideally, as far as what he's looking to do, he's looking to unleash this Egyptian god into the earth and judge everybody from their past, present, and future. And who's to say that that could be anything from 50-50, just like Thanos, or even more? It could be 70-30, leaving a small amount of people to stay on the planet, So I get that he understands Khonshu, but this still can't overlook the fact that he's still looking to unleash that onto Earth.
Absolutely. And that's the gray, right? I think Thanos is such a good example because it's very similar, right? He's like, I call it mercy. I think this is, because in one snap of my fingers, half of you like go away, the rich, the poor, whatever, like all get kind of treated equally. So I honestly think that their missions are very similar in that to them, and they have, you can kind of see their point a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saving the universe. I'm saving, Earth from like bad doers, right?
Right.
But and I think that Steven's a great example of how this was like kind of combated. Is like you're talking about truly like you're talking about killing babies and children,
Right.
right? Because that does, as early as you can catch them before doing anything bad is like in their youth. So at the end of the day, like that alone is just not, it's not good. I
Yeah.
think we can all agree. Like killing children is just where we all draw the line, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Um. Sorry, I remembered an Easter egg that we're gonna bring up soon because it was in episode 2. So say when it came down to uh, sorry, I kind of veered off. I want to kind of get back onto the story. So from here in all of this frantic I don't want to call it panic, but say he's met up with his wife. They go back to his flat, and from here, the Conchu, not the Conchu followers, but the Harrow followers that pose as cops meet up with him and end up bringing him back to Harrow. And this is where we get a feel for Arthur Harrow and his past dealings with Conchu. Um, and yeah, I get it. It seems utopia esque, but I feel like in not only just Marvel, but any story to where there's a utopia involved, there's always something off. I don't believe in like a perfect utopia when it comes to fiction. Like if somebody comes out with a story or a movie that's like, okay, yeah, it's utopian, really, I feel like it's just something creepy, something is lingering in the background,
I agree so much. Like there's something that makes me feel weird about it. Like I feel unsettled at how they, what it reminds me of? It reminds, and you know, you didn't watch this because we talked about it last time too. It reminds me of Midsommar.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like this seemingly utopian society. Everyone seems to have some harmony. They all wear whites. They're all like this, and it's just something underneath is just very like not right. And that's I think the case whenever we see them, especially like this, because it's very culty,
Right,
right?
right,
Although like the picture they're trying to create at the end of it, it's basically built upon genocide, right?
right.
So I totally agree. And just to kind of revisit really quickly, just the interaction between Steven and Lila.
Okay,
Yes.
I'll roll with it.
I'll roll with okay. With Steven and Lila because they ride back on like the motorcycle or like her bike over to the flat, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was very intrigued by the interaction they had because one, like Lila's like, come on, Mark, like fake accent, all this. Like she's not convinced that this isn't actually like a completely different personality.
Mm-hmm.
He just thinks that he's, you know, playing a different person. But I thought it was kind of cool because Steven, and this is something I think we see again in episode 3, has like this like attraction to her, which I think is so adorable, right? Like he's immediately just you know, matches up with her interest. And the thing that I thought was most intriguing was that he starts to say, like, I think he quotes like a poem and other things. And she's like, you're just repeating the things that I enjoy, that I do this and this, this and that.
Uh-huh.
So it's so cool because you're almost seeing, I think, where this personality of Steven was
Right. Like kind of recording like subconsciously, basically.
yeah, it was so
Mm-hmm.
cool. I
Yeah.
love that.
Well, yeah, like say, yeah, I saw it in episode 3 as well, but also here in episode 2, he looked confused because he was like, "I would never divorce you," like because he was just in awe of who she was and what she looked like, and we already got a feel in episode 1 of Steven's love life. He's a bit of a dork, and he kind of dropped the ball. That I'm sure, even with the girl he got a date with, it was somebody that, if anything, Steven probably couldn't muster up the courage to do himself. So
That's why Scotty had to take over, you know?
right, Scotty got it. But like say with that being said, they're there in his apartment, he sees her, and I begin to wonder, even when they're in the desert in episode 3, I was just like, how wrong is it if like Steven kind of fell out of love? No. Mark fell out of love, but Steven falls in love with the same person. Is it wrong?
I was like the same thing. I was like, am I the bad person for wanting Steven and her to like get together?
Right.
I
I'm
mean,
curious. Like same person, different personality. You know, who knows? Let's see if
right?
Steven and Lila can make it work. You
Yeah.
know.
I'm curious to hear how everyone else stands on this because I think it's an interesting conversation to have. You know, like honestly, I'm so aligned. I was like, I feel like they just have so much chemistry. He like highly respects her.
Wait, hold on.
Um,
You're
I, I was getting a
okay.
call. I
You're
should be
good. You're
back.
good.
Okay, cool. So it's I don't know, and you see it again in episode 3. I know we're kind of jumping, but in episode 3, like when he comes back for a moment because he kind of gets locked back
Mm-hmm.
in for a little while, he is obviously trying to figure out this puzzle with her, and like the way he looks at her, the way he talks about like to her, it's just you can tell that there's a spark, and I think she feels it too. You
Well,
know,
yeah. Like say, oh my goodness.
I'm so popular, guys.
She's at Coachella, of course she is, you know what I'm saying? She's about to be backstage. She's about to be hollering at everybody that I was trying to see. The Weekend was over here. I know Kanye performed, but I mean canceled, but either way, I'm still jealous. But and back to Moon Knight, okay? Say when it comes down to Steven, just as a person, because we later learn how invested into Egyptian culture Lila is. She's more so about returning these artifacts to their rightful owners, to where I can get a feel for Mark. He's not as interested into ancient Egypt and their artifacts, where Steven is 100% all in. Like if he had the opportunity to be somewhere, which he was able to do in episode 3. We'll get there momentarily, but like if he's able to go and see some of the things that he's read about, then he would be 100% in regardless. So I think that's just a shared interest that him and Lila have, you know, just kind of like the preservation of the Egyptian culture.
Absolutely, it's one of those things they align with, and it's one of those things you feel like is a copy and paste or like an imprint that was, you know, kind of subconsciously created into
Mm-hmm.
Steven. I think it's really cool. And it's also one of those areas where, you know, like Mark excels in so many things. You know, if Steven's in danger, Mark comes in. It's nice to see these moments where Steven actually is the hero. Like Steven's the one who can bring something to the table that Mark
Right.
can't. You know, so I like those parts of his character. And you know, still within like the realm of episode 2, something that I loved was the fight scene where, you know, it's Layla. I just double checked
Okay.
Layla. is like, get the suit, do the suit, do the suit. And I think this is where she's starting to realize, like, oh no, this is actually
Right.
not Mark, and he really doesn't know how to do these things. And finally, like, Steven's able to like conjure the suit, and because they're all calling it the suit, like it's an actual white suit.
Wait.
And
Okay. I was trying to figure out where. So it was there to where Mark Harrow started to bring something out of the ground, right? Yeah.
where Harrow basically started to attack, right? It was after his essential, like, where he's breaking down his perspective, how he was originally Khonshu's avatar and tormented by him and all of that. Yeah, exactly. So then when Steven was like, you're killing kids, bro, like we cannot like link up. This is not okay. It's an attack essentially, and this is where like the whole little battle ensues, where we see that spectators aren't able to actually see the creatures that are attacking them, much like the video.
Yeah, like because it was even the people on the bus. It's like you see some man dressed in all white, kind of fighting the air. So nobody can really see it. I think maybe if anything, the only person or the only people can see it is Moon Knight and Harrow. They're the only ones that have these interactions with these ancient gods or whatnot. So we did get a feel for like you can make these creatures visible because Layla found out. I think she splashed something on it and then was able to hit it with something or injure it. So it is physical. You just can't actually see it.
Yes. Yeah. It's not ghosts. It's just invisible.
Right. But then we see the comedic side of Steven summoning the suit, and I think that's what the episode is called. It's called Summon the Suit. But it's not like the Moon Knight suit that you see right here on the left, because I have like both of them in the background. You see more so the Moon Knight in a business suit, and I was wondering where this was going to come into play, just because in the trailers before the season came out, it's like I thought this was all just like during the day he's in a suit, but at night he's just like he's the badass. But no, the suits represent the different personalities. So we got Mark Moon Knight and we got Steven Moon Knight, and Steven Moon Knight is just clean. You know what I'm saying? Clean and all white. Thinks that he can box. But he soon realizes that this suit has power. So that gave him a little bit more confidence to fight the creature. No, he doesn't have the combat skills of Mark, but the suit is enabled him to do damage no matter what.
Yeah, and I do love that distinction that they made between the suits to just, better represent the different personalities, because I can easily see that getting a little sloppy. And obviously I think they also help with just like the different accents for sure. It was a really cool like detail that they added in. And it's cool actually, I saw this promo, I think it was like a Marvel promo for the show, and it was Steven's Moon Knight, but he looked pretty badass. Like I remember seeing this and I thought it was really cool. Who knows, it might even be the picture you have pulled up, but like doing this little thing or something. I don't know.
I think that's what it is in the background. Yeah.
He looks pretty badass,
Mm-hmm.
Obviously context of the episodes, it's really hilarious because like, you guys are talking about a suit, right? So it's cool that the suit actually does somehow mesh with whatever the wearer envisions it to be, but I think from here, I think this is where we end in like they lose the
Scarab.
they lose the snitch, and I think this is where Khonshu and Mark have this really severe kind of like confrontation. Like they're like, this is where it's very clear that they're not necessarily in like a clean, harmonious alignment. This is more like of a forced task that Mark is having to go through.
Only just Khonshu and Mark and Steven, like, because say if it came down to it, Steven is not liking the way Mark is handling things, and I think they ended the conversation to where like Steven said he won't let him rest or he won't let him do anything, and it came to the point to where Mark ended up smashing the mirror. So Mark has multiple conflicts with multiple personalities all in his head. So this I I think they labeled it in episode 3 as troubled, and I was like, yeah, I think, yeah, 100%, definitely.
100. Something that was really, I had a lot of sympathy for Steven is like, I think it's in that scene right before, like, it kind of escalates, and then, they smash the mirrors, where he's like, I don't like it in here. It's scary in here. Like, it's interesting getting, Steven's perspective of what it feels like when you're not the main driver. And I think Steven or Mark says something along the lines of like, you kind of get used to it or something like that. But it's an interesting perspective because obviously in episode 1 we had Mark in the back seat, so now it's a cool perspective to see what it feels like on Steven's end now that he's the one like in the
Let me ask
background,
you a
right?
question. So say I just pulled up an image of Steven in his suit, and in this image in the clip, he's actually holding like these sticks that I think he just pulled out of his suit. So say, do you think that these sticks are more so the weapons of Steven, to where Mark, he uses the actual moon crest that he has on his chest as weapons?
That's a detail I didn't even notice, but yeah, absolutely. Because I'm not sure if I saw Steven use,
He
right?
doesn't
I
he
don't
doesn't
think he
have
did.
like the crest anywhere like on the suit. So I would
Yeah,
assume that these sticks are his only weapon. Like, I saw it and I was just curious just to see what you thought.
yeah, I would definitely say that's another thing that I think just is distinctive between the two different characters, which I like. I will say that, especially in episode 3, when Steven was fighting off, I don't even know who the person is, but he was fighting off some of the
Mm-hmm.
bad guys and using his little like half moon things, and I just kept thinking of like Boomerang, like the
Get out
Suicide
of
Squad
here.
villain.
Get out of here. Let's not bring Boomerang up. Even though we already kind of made clear, or I think we made clear, he may be coming back just from how it was in Suicide Squad, maybe. But anyway, moving on. Back to Moon Knight. Okay, so I do want to dive into episode 3, but yes, episode 2 just ends with, uh, I guess, a stranger finding the scarab on the street, and Harrow was just like, "Sorry, dog. That's me. That's all me, player. Let me just get that from you here. Hold my hand real quick." And he just did the whole life draining situation on the random guy. He just thought he found some gold on the street, but I don't know. Uh,
And like it all. So she sees this happen in like the
right,
little
right.
alleyway. Yeah.
So that was episode 2, and now we're moving into episode 3. Okay, and episode 3, um, trying to remember. I'm trying to remember where it opened. Where did episode 3 open? Oh, because episode 2 ended with Mark in Egypt. He's kind of
Yeah.
drinking and kind of getting ready just to beat Harrow to where this tomb is. Because at the end of the day, now we found out what the mission of Harrow is, which is to find the tomb of this god to unleash onto the earth, and that's what the scarab is leading him to, and that was what Mark was pretty much trying to keep from him. So now we're here, and Harrow, he's got his squad digging up, looking for this tomb wherever, and I think they got somebody to say, like, somebody's like, "Oh, Mark is in Cairo." So I'm just to assume that Cairo is not too far from where the dig site was, but everyone is in Egypt, and that goes into a chase, well, not even a chase scene, a fight scene, to where we see Mark in action without Moon Knight, and you can already imagine that Mark is a badass. He's going against 3 guys with not even knives or swords. I think they're like machetes, maybe. I don't know. It was something sharp, but at first there was a moment to where it looked like he was beating up a young kid, but before he was about to beat him up, he was just like he paused for a second, noticing that he's young. So I think he just slapped him, like, "Come on, man, like, get out of here, beat it."
Will Smith. Too soon.
Right, but yeah, this is where we get to see that it's not necessarily Moon Knight with the moves with the suit. It's more so Mark, and we know that he's a mercenary, but now we get a feel for him in his hand-to-hand combat.
Absolutely. And also I think that's very much highlighted in how, Steven's Moon Knight looks and Mark's, right? Because just because Steven has the suit, yes, he still has the
Mm-hmm.
defense that the suit comes with, but it's not like he has these newfound skills of how to necessarily fight, right? It just is obviously an advantage if you can just throw a punch with a closed fist and you have the suit, you're going to have somewhat of an advantage, but he doesn't have the
Right.
skill that plays, and this is a really good display of that. And I don't know if it's before or after, but either way, it's like on almost in like the background, we see Layla getting like her fake passport, her fake like documents, getting ready to head over to where Mark is. And I think the woman that's on the screen is meant to be
Mm-hmm.
her mom. I have like a
Mm-hmm.
that's the case, and they make mention of her dad, who I think was in a similar line of work to Layla. And I can't remember the specific part, and maybe here, but we understand that Layla works with like artifacts and historical like items and things, and that she sells them. Well, I'm sorry, that she returns them back where they belong, and sometimes she keeps them to sell and like have on her own side, right? So this is established, and it's going to be important as we go deeper into the episode. But I think this is an important glimpse at Layla's life because there's mention of her father. And down the episode, I think we get an idea. There's a character. No, I think it is
All right. Yeah.
Arthur, that that it seems like Mark is potentially involved in her dad's death. So I thought that was a really good
Oh, I
kind
didn't
of.
catch that. I thought it was
Yeah,
more so. I thought Arthur was trying to get get him to tell her that uh that he has the debt with Conchu.
no, I definitely don't think that's the case because there was mention of her father. So obviously, we're kind of jumping
Yeah.
ahead of the episode. So the last quarter of the episode at this point. But when he's having that confrontation with um, Mark and they're with Anton, that other character that's involved, he talks about this secret. He makes mention of the dad, and it's very like I'm so certain that it's meant to be like
Mm.
insinuating that he was so involved in the death of
Okay.
her father. And that's like the big secret, I think. And I think that's also kind of layered with this scene that happened first, which was her talking to her mom, talking about her dad, and having somewhat of a sympathy for her situation before getting that. You know what I mean? So I think the way it's laid out, I have a suspicion it's going to be something like that. I guess we're going to have to find out deeper into the next episode and after.
True. Okay. I would say, um, but yeah, that's kind of what I took. I honestly thought he was insinuating something else, but this is where. Oh no, hold on. See, just like that, I forgot. I gotta pull that picture back up. Sorry. I'm gonna before we go forward, I'm going to rewind. Okay, just because we did get a little bit of an Easter egg in episode 2, because we see Steven fight with the suit, and then eventually Mark takes over to get the suit, and now they're having this conversation in the reflection of a window on a bus. And I'm just going to bring, if I can, hold on, I gotta change the format of this image. Hold it. JPEG. Yes, use it. All right, so say here, right, we get an image of Mark in
Mm-hmm.
the suit, right? But if you actually look at the bus, there is a poster for the GRC. So we do know that Moon Knight is in our current universe. And say when it came down to it, that was one of our questions at the very beginning of the season. We didn't know because I think you mentioned either it was a producer or somebody like that mentioned that Moon Knight is not connected, but like it's plastered on this bus saying like the GRC, and there's like their slogan right next to it. So I think it is mentioned later on that uh, Moon Knight is maybe it happens maybe a few months after Hawkeye. So I thought that to be cool when I found that out. So I apologize. I apologize for all the confusion just now. I just wanted to quickly bring that up real quick before we move on in episode 3.
No, it's perfect because honestly, it was a lot of conversation we're having in the beginning because there was like a lot of different statements kind of released. At this point, I think like the definitive statement is like, yes, he's part of the MCU, although his stories are not yet connecting directly to other things just yet. But I think this is a perfect point to talk about something that's mentioned a little bit down the road. So their journey, right? Layla, Mark, all of them kind of link up and they try to get the artifact, which is, in this case, they're looking for the tomb of some
Of the god.
the sarcophagus, right? So that they can piece together some things and like find them out. We'll kind of dive into it a little bit more because I'm kind of jumping forward, but there's mention of hold on, I wrote it down. I want to make sure I don't forget. There's mention of Madripoor.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And being that it was established that Layla works in like the collection of artifacts that have been, stolen from their original placement and that she returns them, but also keeps them in exchanges and like, makes money off of this. I mean, Sharon did the same exact thing. Sharon was the Madripoor. It's not clear whether she's the power broker, etc. But she does work in a very similar line of work, right? Like she collects
Ancient original. Yeah.
all of that. Yeah, and she has like a full gallery in her apartment complex. And so I wonder if this is like a little soft nudge to suggest that maybe Layla works with Sharon. Maybe she's the person that she sells these like original artifacts to when she's exchanging for money, not necessarily returning it to its original placement. So that was just one little thing I wanted to mention. As
Yeah,
we're
when they mentioned it, it was more so how she was connected with the guy, and this I realized is the guy that had the accident. We didn't know what role he was playing here, but this is the gentleman. But it's her dealings with him in Madripoor. And wait, Miguel, what's up? He said, "Damn, I really wanted to stay and watch, but I haven't seen episodes 2 and 3." All right, sorry, we're talking spoilers here, man. So, yeah.
well, you know what? One watch our episode on the first breakdown, right? On episode 1, and then you can watch this one after. So, no.
But yeah, like, so we know now that he's connected to Madripoor and she's connected to him. I don't know if we can safely assume that's a direct connection to not only Sharon Carter, but also the power broker. But we can just say that if anything, if Layla needed to get her hands on something, and if it's ancient Egyptian or whatnot, then I would think she would know about Madripoor, being that that's where all of the original pieces of either art or anything is. It's like let's say it's like a 1 in 10 chances is there, So if anything, she may just know that if she needs or heard something of finding a certain artifact, she has that connection to the black market, which I would assume the black market is Madripoor.
Yes. And it's just all layered very similarly, where I'm like excited to see if there are more connections to kind of tie in down the road. Based on the statements that have been made by like writers, etc., we know that there's no they're not going to be any like definitive like ties this close in the game, or at least but I thought that was a really cool connection just into the outside world, and the rest of the MCU. So that
I love connections. You know what I'm saying?
We love this. So I know we jumped around a little bit. Something we skipped over, which I think is really important, is the Court of the Gods.
Oh, I didn't even think we got to that point yet. It's like I know we were kind of like talking about things, but we hadn't even got to that tomb yet. Just because I kind of briefly mentioned that, like Steven, he would be excited to see or even be in a place of the things that he read about, and then come to find out, this episode kind of ends up inside of a pyramid I think it's the Pyramid of Giza, and he was just super excited because if I'm just gonna safely assume that uh, no one has ever been to or inside of this pyramid. One, or B, if anything, because somehow they all got everybody that ended up in this pyramid, they took a magical quote unquote portal. So we don't even necessarily know if this is inside the pyramid. This could be a quote unquote door to an Egyptian what was it called, like dimension or something like that, you know, where everybody can just choose to meet. But if it is the case to where if it is actually inside of that pyramid, then cool. It's something that no real human people or human eyes have seen, you know. It's just something that's kind of been tucked away for the gods to kind of communicate when they need to.
Yeah, and I'm gonna assume it is
Right.
just be like the pyramid,
Mm-hmm.
mention it, but no, that's, or like even one could suggest like, what if it is the pyramid of Giza, but not in this like,
Right.
this exact
Right.
use? Right? This is live in now when we talk about the MCU. Yeah, this was, I really like this specific scene because you obviously know that Mark is the avatar to Khonshu, and that that Arthur is kind of setting himself as if he's like the avatar of Amit, got the name of the goddess. And we get to see the same thing for other gods, right? And I thought that this piece was really interesting because it explains why the gods are no longer involved or present on Earth, which is because, I think, I don't know if it's Khonshu or Mark who makes the statement that they essentially abandoned humanity, but they make the claim that humanity
That
abandoned
was
them,
Conchu.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, the one who called them out on that, right? And so it pretty much explains why they're not like directly involved in the world of man anymore, right? They have these avatars to essentially just observe, which seems kind of wasteful. Like if you just have someone to observe the world, but you have absolutely no intention to like intervene ever, you know what I mean? It's kind of intriguing, but
Well, that's. I mean, you could
um,
say the same thing for the Watcher. You know.
yes. Well, something, the Watcher tells us the story. You know what I mean? Like he's a narrator. Like it's not like these gods are narr. I mean, who
I
knows?
mean,
Who
just
knows? Who
because,
knows?
just for the fact that, like, say when it comes down to the Watcher is somebody who watches these universes, but doesn't intervene. But at the end of season one of What If, he he breaks
Breaks
his
his.
word and he intervenes. So if anything, I would think it's I think is the Watcher a god or no?
The Watcher is hold on. I haven't really refreshed on this since we worked on What If. I'm gonna look up real quick the Watcher because usually in
All right,
like
but the point I'm making is, like, say when it comes down to these Egyptian gods, I found it interesting just because like I think I've seen it in other films not related to Marvel, but like say certain gods kind of almost not necessarily losing their power, but kind of giving up on humans just because humans kind of move on, and that's what they're saying here. They've moved on from worshiping the gods of Egypt, you know, and they've just done their own thing, you know, and that can be quote unquote relatable to real life, you know. Nobody, or I'm not gonna say nobody, but like in terms of the actual worship of just Egyptian gods in general, I'm assuming it's not as powerful as it once was a millennia ago, you know. So
and honestly to the parallel that you made, maybe that's what we're gonna see. Like we're gonna see them actually become involved directly in the event, because they really kind of dropped the ball, right? Like they do bring Arthur to hear his side of the piece because obviously Khonshu is telling them like, hey, he's trying to release Amit, and like they bring in Arthur and just kind of take him at his word. Like, yes, to his point, he kind of makes a good claim where Khonshu kind of looks like a whiny
mm-hmm.
child, So I see like the god's point of like leaning on Arthur, but I feel like if they literally just went to the site near Amit's like tomb, whatever, they would literally see his people like trying to dig up. You know what I mean? I feel like it would not have been too hard for the gods to just go and
Right,
investigate. You know what I
right.
mean? Like,
But
if
instead,
any, yeah,
they bring Arthur, somehow bring him to uh what is this place called? A tomb? It's not a tomb. Is it? It's
um,
not a courtroom.
anything. I mean, other than I think the Pyramid of Giza.
Okay.
You know?
And like we get quote unquote his side, but we as the audience knows that what he's up to. But he's bringing out facts on what Conchu's doing with somebody who's not well. You know, someone who's unwell. I think that's what I wanted to say. He's unwell. You know, so
Mm-hmm.
um, random. I found what the Watchers are. I'm sorry. The Watchers are an ancient race of extraterrestrials who took upon themselves the task of observing planets. So they're not even godlike. They're just pretty much aliens, basically.
Aliens. That's what I found too. I just went on the database and I looked them up, and it just is a species
Yeah. Yeah.
alien.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Okay.
So the Watchers, actually, to your point, have like more responsibility to maybe actually intervene, since it seems like they self decided to just be
Right.
observers. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Okay.
Uh, and this pretty much this meeting of the gods ends with them kind of scolding Khonshu for manipulating the stars to get their attention, and they say definitively, if like you ever do this again, like we're going to like end you,
Right.
pretty
Turn him
much,
into
like, you
stone.
know. Yeah, exactly. And also it gives us an insight as to why, I don't know if it was maybe mentioned earlier, but why Khonshu got banished, right? Because he pulled too much attention to their existence, right? So that's why I think this was such a big situation, because again, he's manipulating the sky. All the people of the world are watching this. Um, and this is kind of where we just where do we actually go from this after they leave the temp, like that,
Well,
the
from
pyramid?
there, um, because they don't really have a way to actually track as to where the actual tomb is. Because I think, if anything, with the scarab, I think it led Harrow one direction, but I think they needed a constellation to lead them in another direction. But over thousands of years, of course, the stars moved and the constellations aren't the same. And this is where we kind of get Khonshu breaking the rules again, kind of making, because if anything, this is the power of Moon Knight. Initially, I was thinking that this is Khonshu that's doing this, but this is actually Mark. You know, that's kind of turning back the stars just to see where this map in the sky is. You know, but in doing so, of course, that angered the gods to the point to where they turned him into stone. Now, that leaves me with the question of, does that mean there's no Moon Knight until Khonshu is broken free? Because I believe they made it clear that he can be freed. Um, but yeah, do you think that as of right now, Moon Knight is gone and it's just Layla and Mark and Steven that's on this mission?
See, that was a question I had as well, because where we leave Mark and Steven, like they're definitely in a weak state, and they're no longer obviously in, like, they don't have the suit or
Mm-hmm.
anything, right? But they just completed this very huge task, you know, so maybe they are just tired and worn out and need to like recover. But I don't know, it's interesting. I feel like I would have initially assumed that, being that Khonshu is locked away, he no longer has the powers of Moon Knight, but Khonshu pretty confidently says, like, you need to tell Mark to set me
Mm-hmm.
free. I mean, maybe he's just relying on the skills that Mark has on his own, which are pretty substantial as they are. Um, yeah, it's an interesting thing. Like, I'm kind of leaning on the side of him not having the powers. You know, I feel like that makes the
Mm-hmm.
most sense to me. Actually, I might want to amend my statement, because Arthur uses powers through
Mm-hmm.
Amit, but Amit is also like trapped. So maybe he still does have the powers
Interesting.
of Moon Knight,
Okay.
actually. that. I'm
Okay,
gonna leave it
I'm
there.
with that.
Yeah.
I think we breezed over one aspect that we actually wanted to chat about, which is Scotty, real quick, because
Scotty.
I forgot which fight scene it was, but it came to the point to where there was a fight scene and Mark initially I think had the body and he blacked out, and we were to assume that Steven took over, and he came back. He found Steven in a reflection and said Steven confirmed that it wasn't him. So either it was Conchu or Scotty, but I don't think Conchu can take the body. I think he's just kind of around. So do you think that this is the Scotty?
It's not. I freaked out. So yeah, like it's and we're definitely copying all over the place, guys. But come on, it fits the episode because Moon Knight is all over
Correct.
the place, so we're
Mm-hmm.
fine. In like that montage of like the earlier scenes where we're just seeing him kind of like
Yeah.
jump in and out, um, which I thought was a cool perspective because we're seeing Mark have to like handle Steven, like kind of stealing control when he needs it and showing up in places where he just doesn't understand where he ended up. Which I think is cool because I think he gets the same perspective that we saw Steven have in the first
Mm-hmm.
episode, right? But it's yeah, in that back and forth, there's a moment where like you didn't do it, I didn't do it, then who did
Right.
it? You know? So I was hey.
So Grace is right. There is a third.
There's
There's
someone
someone in
in
there
there,
that we
yeah.
haven't met, and who knows? There may be multiple people that we haven't met. That may be later in season 2 and season 3. But what we do know, I do want to kind of, because now we're kind of coming towards the end of that episode, is we get a monologue from Arthur Harrow, because by this point, Conchu, he's been in prison, and then Harrow's talking to Conchu as if like he's like, hey, when I was your avatar back in the day, I used to do most of your dealings, and basically, I am the way I am right now because of you. You know, so everything that I'm doing right now, you sparked this. So with that, we don't we of course we don't as an audience know the dealings that Arthur had with Khonshu, but it leads us to wonder to where, say, after all of these instances are over and the problem is solved after the season or whatnot, will Khonshu lead Mark down a similar path? You know?
And I've thought about this too because one of the things I've kind of questioned is like the longevity of this hero because you know his name is
Mm-hmm.
Moon
Mm-hmm.
Knight, right? You know, without Khonshu, you know, we know Mark is already a very skilled individual, but how does Moon Knight continue if also there's like this deal that you know once you complete this task, I will leave you alone. You know, so I think we can say for sure that something's gonna happen where they stay, you know, in that like binded state, like Khonshu and Mark, and of course Steven. And I'm thinking the only way that it could happen is maybe them finding some type of harmony. You know, the way we kind of assumed there must have been some more like common ground in the first episode. I don't know. It's a tricky thing. It's a tricky thing, but um, I don't know, like Contra kind of seems like an asshole. You know what I mean? Like the more we see of him right now, it's like he's controlling. He's very much a whiner. Like he's just, I don't know, but I do really like the way we finish before he is
Mm-hmm.
trapped, where he has a lot of faith in Mark to release him. Like I do like that. Like I like that little piece. It kind of reminds me a bit of how Sam spoke about Bucky in regards to John and like the Wakandans. Like you know you want to like mess with Bucky before you mess with them. Like kind of like setting them in that area of like
Mm-hmm.
respect. You know, so there's pieces in there to suggest that possibly they'll find that common ground. Where that's not the case, right? Where Khonshu's like dragging him down, just like Arthur. I don't know. It's a
It
tricky
is
thing.
it is tricky just because uh we know that of course Mark is the quote unquote owner of this suit, but who's to say that Arthur didn't have this suit before, or a version Arthur's version of the Moon Knight, handling the task for Khonshu, it just that just kind of led me to just wonder where where Khonshu can take it, because if anything, Khonshu can drag this out. He's like, oh, but I need this. Oh wait, now this done, I need that. He could. I feel like if anything, that is the quote unquote curse of Khonshu, and that's why Arthur Harrow maybe kind of moved on from that and started worshiping somebody else. Uh, but one thing I did want to mention, I just kind of forgot. There was a conversation between Mark and Layla on a boat, and Layla is trying to figure out what the deal is in terms of how long has Mark known about Steven and whatnot. And I think he mentioned something like he's known about this being or Steven's personality for a long time, but it wasn't until recently, he said, to where it started getting out of control. And with that, I was wondering, like, how long has Mark known of Steven? Has it been years? And he's just more so been able to keep Steven out of the surface, And B, uh, there has to be the event of where he has lost control and Steven is able to take over the body. So I'm now thinking, being that you brought up the situation with her dad, it could have been something with that. And with that, it could have been a situation of him making this deal with Khonshu, to where if Khonshu enters him, somehow the other personalities start to come out and Mark loses control of being able to keep him suppressed, So that's something that I kind of caught from that, and I thought that was pretty interesting.
I like all the perspectives that you're kind of bringing from that. I do like the idea of maybe that, if he is involved with Layla's dad's like death, maybe that was the catalyst for him losing control of these personalities and kind of subduing um, uh,
Mm-hmm.
Steven, right? I do think that this episode definitely answers the question of like, did he have this dissociative personality disorder before meeting Khonshu, or was it sparked from meeting Khonshu? And I would definitely say this is definitely stating that he was dealing with this already before his
Right.
contact with Khonshu, because not a situation, but it's something that Arthur mentions to the council, that Khonshu picked this person who was already dealing with issues and he's troubled, to basically exploit him. So that's honestly answering a lot of the things that we had questions over in the first episode. So I think piece by piece we're getting a bigger picture of all of this, and I hope they still dive into some of that, because although they've discussed and mentioned essentially the way that the relationship between Khonshu and Mark works, they still haven't mentioned really how they even met in the
Right.
first place. You know what I mean? At least the way out in the MCU. Like, we've discussed a little bit of how it looks like in the comics, like roughly. But I think it's something we're still going to see more of, and I'm excited too. But I think we're kind of getting some of the pieces as we go forward.
This is kind of gonna about to go off topic, because I think that may be it for episode 3, right? Did you have anything else?
Uh, I think we hit all of the main points. Let me just. Yeah, I think this is the main points for
All
these
right.
two episodes.
So what I wanted to kind of add on to something that I said in the past is Phase 4 is continuing to go into more so the unknown. Okay, because as of right now, we've gotten pretty much surface level events that moved on to uh, extraterrestrial events, but we never really knew of anything of like the unknown things that's happening on Earth, like Shang-Chi in a different dimension. Now we got Egyptian gods, and like everything that I kind of that Phase 4 is kind of putting out there, because we also got Eternals, and we're soon hopefully going to get uh vampires, but who knows? We'll see in the Multiverse of Madness. But all in all, at the end of the day, this is, let's just call it phase weird, just because this is where we're starting to kind of dig a little deeper into the things that you wouldn't assume you would see in a phase one of any franchise, you know?
It's I mean it's definitely the next level, right? I feel like like the first we're in a new
Right.
saga, right? So I think it's to the first phase of the Infinity War saga in that we're being introduced to a lot of different characters. Yes, in the Infinity War saga, those new characters were some that were pretty well known, not just in the comic book community, but just mainstream, right? Like Captain America, Iron Man. Like you don't need to know the comics to know those
Correct.
characters necessarily, and their names, like you at least can recognize them. Hulk,
Mm-hmm.
all of that, right? And now because we're really going beyond like the surface of comic book characters, like these characters to many are never heard of before. So I think calling them this phase weird is totally like on point, because we're learning that we're meeting like the new arsenal of characters that I believe ultimately will lead to this big monumental event. So yeah, I think
Well,
that's
I
valid,
thought
a
about it.
valid.
I thought about it the other day. Just I was kind of thinking about it in comparison to DC, to where DC, they, as far as the extended universe, they kind of dug right on in. Yes, they got the Justice League, but then from there, we got the I think I don't even know what civilization goddess we got in the first Suicide Squad, and then we got Starro, and then we got the Butterflies. So DC is kind of going head in straight into the weirdness at the very beginning, even though they don't even have everything figured out. That they're kind of starting off this universe to where we got alien starfish, we got butterflies, and this is just, it's like you already know about the random heroes, but we're already gonna just dive into the weird shit already. So it wasn't until like this phase to where Marvel is starting to dig in a little bit more and expound upon uh not only just the things that we know, but like as far as characters, but taking us into just different worlds, and different universes. Of course, the multiverse, but we're getting that right here, right now. We wouldn't. I don't even think it would have been as established if that were brought into in phase one, two, or three. I think we needed that whole build up before Doctor Strange took us into the multiverse of madness.
And I feel like it shows just how much story there is to tell. And I think something that they've been doing so well is that it's all like slow and like it's like progressive, like progressive
Right.
overload. like it just feels like it's like time over time it's just slowly becoming bigger and bigger and more complex, but because they're starting from a really solid foundation of phase one in the Infinity War saga and then building up to what we're having now, it's very well done and you're really maximizing and kind of stretching out the storytelling you can do. And I think that's why we're seeing a lot more um, like events like this where it's not just Iron Man versus like that one guy who was his partner in the business and the first Iron Man. It's like the effects are much more
Well,
like
yeah, especially
bigger.
now that, let's say, like after Loki, like we had three phases dedicated to the Infinity Stones, and now come to find out the stones aren't really worth anything. Of course we don't have them now in this universe because they've all been destroyed, but like the TVA just kind of made it clear, it's like, oh, these we just kind of use these as paperweight. So that kind of like is like, yeah, we got that. The power of all of these here in these first three phases, but now I want to let you know that these stones don't mean anything, and we're about to go left. We're about to go somewhere you can't even imagine right now. Say again. Oh, you went out. One more time. There it is.
The
Got it. Got it.
multiverse. No, it's cool. Like I think it's such an exciting like phase kind of being introduced to the new saga that we're in, and like these are just the
Mm-hmm.
shows. You know what I mean? Like the show think have outlined this space so well, where the movies are almost like a climax of all these like events, you know? So, I mean, the next movie that's coming out is Multiverse of Madness. And I just realized the other day how close that is. Like, we're just like a couple weeks away at this point. What would you say,
Yeah, just a few
like
weeks. May
three?
5th. Is it May 5th?
Yeah. Right. I think you're right. Let me double check. I gotta pull up the calendar. May, yes, May 5th. Yeah, it is May 5th. We had
Look at
tickets for
that.
May
Y'all
5th.
going on open day. Listen, so far I've been able to get in on opening day without buying in advance. So, if anything, if I don't get it day 1, then wait, I got to look at the calendar. Hold on. What day does that land on? Is that a Friday? Are we going to be able to talk about it afterwards?
You know something? So side note. So it's May the 4th. We're doing for my partner. I'm thinking of like the
Mhm.
Star Wars night. You know, so that's the 4th, right? So it's at nighttime. I don't think it ends till like
Mhm.
1 or something. And the 5th, we're gonna go watch Multiverse of Madness, and I think we got like a 10 o'clock showing for a 3-hour movie. So again, we're not gonna be done till like 1, home to like 2 or something, bed by 3. It's gonna be a rough weekend. It's gonna. So Friday on that particular week is gonna just be great, guys. Grace is gonna have like the darkest of darkest circles. We'll be looking like a dark, Stephen
Let's
Strange.
wait. So with that being said, let me ask you out of curiosity because Doctor Strange is a solo movie, right? And say initially when I remember, I think it was 2018. I think Infinity War came out, and then Black Panther came out, and Black Panther did crazy numbers in its first weekend. I think it did better than Infinity War, maybe, or maybe Infinity War beat it out. But all I know as a solo film, just like Doctor Strange, do you think that it's going to outperform the previous numbers, and then that's including uh, the Avengers movies? Do you think it's going to outperform any of those in theaters?
I want to say yes because I mean, No Way Home outperformed all of them, and that's like a technically standalone like
Mm-hmm.
Spider-Man film, and this, I mean, with all the hype behind it, I've seen things where it's just like this is going to have more impact than No Way Home. It's going to be, and No Way Home, like
Yeah.
both of we both just like the effect it had on like the nerdum for MCU is just so like huge that we can't rank it anywhere but like number 1 on our list as of now. Um, so I want to say Multiverse of Madness is definitely going to blow it out of the water. The one thing I think that might be different than in No Way Home is No Way Home like took on generations upon generations of fans. You know what I mean? Fans who maybe are no longer, interested in the MCU, have kind of like, no longer been involved in what's been happening. They'll still remember the Tobey Maguire. They'll still remember like the Andrew Garfield, and maybe just come in because they want to see that. So who knows? Like maybe that's where No Way Home might have somewhat of an edge. But I think Multiverse of Madness is gonna be big, like in terms of box office and numbers. I think it's definitely be very close to No Way Home, if not maybe beat it. So
I'm already anxious slash worried about Zombie Strange. You know what I'm saying? But just from the initial trailer and seeing him come out with his like multiple arms and shit, I was just like, I don't know, man. It seems like yes, I know we're gonna get, if anything, a battle between him and Wanda, but if this is the same Zombie Strange from What If, and then if anything, if possibilities like happen to give us like the zombie Wanda, you know what I'm saying? I just want all of these universes to converge and
I mean, it's the clips from the trailer, like you literally see them falling into multiple
right.
different dimensions, like a coin and all of these things. So we're definitely going to be experiencing like glimpses of so many different universes, glimpses of so many different variations of these characters. And I mean, I feel like we've barely even seen anything of the movie, although I feel like the trailers have given us a lot with all like the back end, um, you know, notes that we're getting of like, oh, we're gonna see the X-Men, we're gonna see all of this, all of this, all that, like different things. I feel like we haven't even seen anything from the movie. Like I feel like there's so much left still to be like
What I've
shown.
But
Like
what I've
I'm really
seen as of recently, Marvel has been doing a great job at putting what we see in the trailer at the very beginning of the movie, you know? And I think they did that right now with Moon Knight, because I think everything that's happened in the Moon Knight trailer I've already seen in episodes 1 through 3. So I think like episodes 4, 5, and 6 is pretty much going to be a mystery. I don't think there's going to be anything new from the trailers.
yeah, and that's I think same thing. I feel like we have so much yet to see, and I know there's gonna be so many different cameos. Like I'm excited. I feel like whenever it is that we break down Multiverse of Madness, it's gonna have to be like a part 1 and part 2 because I feel like there's just gonna be so
Mm-hmm.
much to talk about. It's a good time. It's a good time for the
Yeah.
nerdum, guys.
All right. Well, I think that's everything. Did you have anything else you wanted to add?
No, that's pretty much it. There was actually a little thing I wanted to mention from the episode 3. It's like the fight where I'm
Go
sorry, I
for it.
just want to mention it because I made it's like where Mark is fighting off like the followers
Mm-hmm.
of Arthur, and there's got holes, and I think it's like where Steven takes over for like a second, like I got this. You see the
Mm-hmm.
switch of the costume, and then came up, and he's just like, Mark, take
Oh,
the body, take
I
the
don't even
body, and I
remember
just thought
that.
that was such a it was so good, and I just wanted to highlight it, guys. It's my favorite. It's not my favorite part of episode 3. It was just a really funny moment of episode 3 because we always see Steven like, give me the body, Mark, like give me the body, and for him to just be like, take it, like
Mm-hmm.
take care of these bad guys. I thought,
Oh,
no, that's
but we
all.
did
That's
just.
all.
I'm sorry. After you, I have one other piece, I guess, to add. Just with Mark, the last little piece, we actually saw Mark have to surrender to Steven. You know, this is something that he was avoiding. You know, he didn't want to give the body to Steven, but if in order to find this map, unfortunately, Steven is the Egyptian expert. You know, and even though you can see it in his like in his facial or his body language or whatnot, you can see he's not pleased. But I think this is the relationship that they're gonna have to expound upon, being that Steven knows more Egypt than Mark. You know, Mark is more so about completing missions, getting the job done. Where we do need uh the analyst part of this situation. Like if you recall the whole like operator versus analyst conversation that we had. Let's just say if anything, when it comes down to ancient Egypt, Steven is more so like the analyst, to where Mark is more so the operator. And now we just have to figure out where Scotty comes into play.
I feel like I'm hopeful, and I think it's something we're gonna definitely see is them figure out how to live together
Mm-hmm.
versus fighting each other, which I think brought a lot of challenges
Mm-hmm.
for both of their lives. And I think that's where we're gonna leave them at the end of this, first season. And so I'm like wondering if like, they're finally gonna be like, okay, we're doing good, like
Yeah.
we have an understanding, like Mark comes in, and like when we need Steven to just, they have like some form of a harmony with it, and then Scott is just like, and there's me, and then it just
Season 2.
messes it all up again because he just
Yeah.
body.
Okay. Well, yeah, that's everything. We will be back next week at our normal time. Is that correct? Normal time for you? That's good. Great.
Yeah, like famous celebrity after parties anymore. I'm just me in my
Yeah, it'll be regular
home
Grace.
reading books.
I'm gonna let Grace
Regular.
be. She can be the cool one. She's the cool one this week. You know what I'm saying? I'm happy that you get to go and check out Coachella. I've never been, so let me know. Let me know how it goes. Give
It's not the festival. It's an
Either
after
way.
party. Like with
Where
I
where
I
where
know
are
I
you
know
now? You're in
it's
Palm
it's.
Springs. Get out of here. Miss me with, oh, it's just, it's just an after party. No, you're in Palm Springs going to a Coachella after party where I'm sure you're gonna bump some elbows with maybe some celebrities over there, you know? Yeah.
I'll probably out. Like, I'm sorry, Grace, you just can't be attacking these like celebrities. It's just
I'm gonna
not.
keep an eye out
We'll
on
we'll see.
TMZ to see
I'll
if
make
Grace makes the news.
now. I completely completely forgot to ask you
Oh, the
how
race
the
was
race
awesome,
went.
man. It was actually funner than expected. Like, of course, going in, I knew I was going to. It's like a 3 mile obstacle course, and it's like everybody. There was like hundreds of people out there, and of course they had different waves. And the waves that we were in, we all started out running. You know what I'm saying? And then uh, after the first obstacle, everybody kind of slowed it down, you know. But all in all, everybody that went, we all had a blast. Jumped into some super cold water, some super cold ice water, climbed some walls. I was actually like, this one guy was amazed at how fast I climbed a wall. I was like, hey man, parkour, I do that. No, I'm just kidding. But but yeah, it's something that I would definitely do again. I probably wouldn't do uh the 10K unless I trained for it, and then there was like a 15K. But if anything, the 5K was easy enough for anybody. There were some grandmas out there. There were some people walking their dogs out there. I was like, fam, I'm not trying to step in your dogs, stuff when they're handling business, But aside from that, loads of fun. So, Grace, if you have the opportunity, maybe next year, if you want to do it again or do it with us.
Don't even have to wait for next year. There are so many. There's Spartan, there's the Tough Mudders, there's like Rugged Maniac. There's so many different all year long. So we don't
Oh, I'm
gotta
talking
wait
Tough
till
Mudder
next year. But I think
specifically because I think isn't Spartan more so just like isn't it a race, like not even like a race, but you want to go for a certain time for Spartan race?
it just depends. So, for example, there are elite people, and they will go like early 8 a.m., 7 a.m. times, and they do race and they make podium, all of that. But other than that, it's very similar to Tough Mudder, where there's heat, and then you just kind of run at your heat. Everyone's kind of in their own pace. The biggest, I think, of the difference between Spartan and the Tough Mudder is Spartan has penalties for any obstacle
Right.
that you do not complete. The rules may be different, but in normal, like either if it's a 5K, 10K, 15, if you miss an obstacle, it's 30 burpees. If it's a stage for Spartan, it's only 15 burpees. So that's the difference. It's definitely like a little bit of a different feel, but I think it's the same thing across the board. No matter what obstacle course race you do, it's like it's your moment to feel like you are a
Definitely.
superhero. So for you guys are very much aligned with us and the things that excite us. Like you guys would really love it because you can go in your pace, and whenever you want to like just kind of go faster, do the parkour, like chill here,
Oh yeah.
you can do that and just leave. Like, super cool. So highly recommend, and we definitely got to do one with like
Yeah.
the whole gang. I feel like
I'd
it'd
be
be
down. We just have to sit down and yeah, set it up.
important. Sit down, contract.
No. Okay,
Absolutely.
guys. Well, until the next episode, which we will be hitting the 30 mark, we will holler at y'all next Friday. Grace, enjoy Coachella, and everybody else, enjoy your weekend.
Bye,
Later.
guys. See you guys next week.